I think it was 10 days ago that America told Hungary that it had to give up Russian oil and gas. This article was written when the US Secretary of Energy was here in Europe attending a conference. And it really was. Perhaps it was he who first said what Trump later confirmed several times, that the war can only end if the European Union stops buying oil from Russia, even secretly, because then the Russian economy will collapse. And as an EU member state, Hungary should do the same. Thank you once again for the invitation, and it's good to be here. It's good to be in front of a community and in an environment where you can expose fake news, like what 444 suggests. Because this requires a more layered approach. And indeed, energy policy is an issue that operates 24/7. So even this morning, there was news at dawn about what was happening in the world. So what is the message of this article? It is a false statement. It shows an imperial logic. The host is the European Union, or let's call it Russia, or let's call it the United States of America. Trump may be president, but he can still ask himself what is good for Americans. It is good for Americans if we buy LNG from Europe instead of Russian gas, American LNG, and this is part of a conscious plan. As President Trump agreed with President Zelensky when they discussed what compensation Ukraine would give for financing the war, they put their foot down. From an energy perspective. So that's where we are, and that's where we're headed. Once Russia wants to transport gas to Europe, it will largely be through a Ukrainian-American axis.
Tehát oda tartunk, hogy ha egyszer majd Oroszország Európa felé gáz szeretne továbbítani, az nagyrészt egy ukrán-amerikai tengelyen keresztül tud történni.
And that's where we are, constantly replacing Russian gas with American LNG, but they are thinking logically from their point of view. There is just one entity not thinking logically. The European Commission should ask, what's good for Europe? What serves Europe's interests? What is good for us? As if Trump had ordered Viktor Orban not to buy Russian energy. Or rather, Trump's statement was something along the lines of, I'll talk to my friend Viktor Orban, and then I think that if I ask him, it will be done. I think the point is that I will talk to my friend. A good relationship, a partnership. He takes Hungary and Viktor Orban seriously, Donald Trump, and, according to this, the phone call took place. I don't know the details either, but the point is that Viktor Orban did not say that from now on, gasoline in Hungary should cost 1,000 forints. Dear Brussels, dear Trump, we are not buying from Russia. You and our dear viewers can be sure of that, knowing the Prime Minister. Overall, dialogue is indeed very important, and in this extremely complex, multi-layered issue, it is very difficult to see all the elements of this geopolitical conflict even from the Hungarian Prime Minister's office, let alone from my modest little office. So it is worth finding the hub around which we can organize our thoughts and our lives. And this is the only hub. It is the fact that we are here in Central Europe, on these 92,000 square kilometers. It is also an interesting fact that if the fighters need ammunition, say in a dispute with the officers, Hungary buys 2.2% of Russian oil exports, so 90.78% goes elsewhere. If Hungary were to suicidally renounce Russian oil, it would not end the war. That's good information too. If fighters face a battle with ammunition, Hungary should buy 2.2% of Russian oil exports. So, 97.8% goes elsewhere.
Tehát 97,8% az máshol megy, hogyha Magyarország öngyilkos módon lemond.
If Hungary had given up Russian oil, there would be no end to the war. And the fighters would have more ammunition. Besides, what you say about Ukraine itself is true. President Zelensky has made that clear. So various articles by supposed experts give the impression that by cutting off Russian oil, Russia will be weakened financially and militarily, because it will not be able to provide fuel for its combat vehicles. But at the end of the day, the Ukrainian president said the following: friendship depends on the cooperation of the Hungarians.
Anyagot biztosítani a harci járműveinek. De közben a nap végén az ukrán elnök a következőt mondta: a barátság a magyarok együttműködésén múlik. Talán nem szó szerint idéztem, de valami ilyen volt a tartalma. Teljesen világos, a napnál.
I may not have quoted him verbatim, but that was the gist of it. It is crystal clear. It is clearer than day that this is a weapon of energy blackmail. The oil and the targeted countries are Hungary and Slovakia. The underlying issue is that Hungary can only receive oil through the Odria pipeline, and doesn't want to depend on Russia out of friendship. There's debate about this, and in the past 1.5 days, arguments have grown stronger.
Köszönjük szépen, mert nem akarunk onnan lenni. És erről most megint vita van, az elmúlt 1-1,5 napban ezek felerősödtek. Valaki azt mondja, hogy nem elég nagy az átmérője, kapacitása az Adria vezetéknek ahhoz, hogy...
Some say the Odria pipeline's capacity is not enough to supply Slovakia and Hungary, while others say MOL and the government are lying, and the problem can be solved.
A helyzet a következő, a barátság kőolaj vezetéke.
Here's the situation: Slovakia and Hungary get 14 million tons of oil annually via the existing pipeline. Annually? Yes, every year. In comparison, the Odria pipeline can transport 11 to 12 million tons. This statement is largely supported by the articles, which are a subject of serious debate, and here it is worth turning to those who carry out these tests for MOL and the Croatians, who say that today the Odria pipeline cannot transport this amount for more than 2 hours. That's where we stand. In the very short term, it could be spun up to provide the capacity needed for 14 million, but it can't handle more than 2 hours, so it won't deliver 14 million tons. It cannot deliver 14 million. Let me help you, Mr. President. I hope you are watching us. As always. Then I hope you work with accurate numbers and data at the next forum, because professionalism might be a Bolshevik trick, but sometimes you can't discuss things seriously without talking nonsense. Cutting oil supplies means the next step for gas and electricity, up to average consumption. For gas, over 90%, 92% of Hungarians don't consume above the average. They pay just 100 forints. On the world market, the price is 400 to 450 forints per cubic meter. We pay a quarter of the market price for residential gas. For electricity, the ratio is about 80%, and when electricity crosses a certain line, the price above it is still better than market rates. So,
vállalkozása 400 forint, 450 ér kap köbméterenként gázt. Negyedét fizetjük a gáznak, mint amit a piacon lehetne kapni.
Lakossági
ügyfélként. Villanyban ez az arány olyan 80%, és amikor villanyban átlépi az ember a rezsihatárt, akkor is a rezsihatár fölötti árazás is olyan, ami kedvezőbb, mint a piaci ár. Tehát összességében azt tudom mondani, hogy az állítás teljesen téves. Az állítás az, hogy a magyarok Európában a legkedvezőbb árakat fizetik. És ezt nem mi mondjuk, kedves nézők, hanem a Magyar Energetikai és Közműszabályozási Hivatal megbíz egy szakértőt. Nem egy ilyen magyar, azzal a váddal illethető szakértőt.
So, the idea that Hungarians pay the highest prices in Europe is completely wrong. We pay the most favorable prices, as confirmed by Hungary's Energy and Public Administration, via independent experts. Not Hungarian experts, but recognized ones from Austria, whom we trust, not just for language, but for reliability. This company says Hungarian energy prices are the most favorable in Europe. I recommend this evidence to representative critics. Another idea that's repeated is that energy efficiency programs would be the solution.
Mondani, és egy ilyen szirén hang, úgy könnyű elkábulni benne, hogy az energiahatékonyság lenne a megoldás. Ezt a rezsicsökkentést el kell törölni, mondja az ellenzék. Energiahatékonysági programokat kell indítani, és akkor itt lesz a Kánoán energetikailag Magyarországon. Ezzel kapcsolatban csak egy muníciót engedjetek meg.
That could reduce costs. The opposition claims launching energy efficiency programs would trigger a special benefit in Hungary. You have to compare two things, reduced energy prices and market prices, and the value of energy efficiency programs.